So that's a little excerpt from a song by John Mellencamp called Jack and Diane. Super pretty, super nice. And if you're a beginner to the guitar, that might seem an awful lot. It turns out it's not really an awful lot to do. And in fact, I'm going to take you to the point where you can do that today. So consider, if you're an absolute beginner, this is going to be a fun starting place for you, because the things that cause beginners grief, if you like, beginners to the guitar, are things we don't often talk about. For instance, you might be playing a guitar that isn't yours. It's a friend, someone you borrowed, one that's been in the family, whatever it is. And so when you pick it up, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't fit you. Maybe it's not set up well. Lots of good things that could come up to make it grief. So we're going to actually work on making the guitar feel good to you, and then accidentally learn how to play it. So I've got my Ibanez. This is a Tallman TCY 10, I think is the number for it. This is a super easy guitar to play. It just feels good, especially if you like playing electric guitar, because it's smaller. If you look at it, it's very much thinner than a normal guitar would be. It's still an acoustic, but it's an electroacoustic, so you can plug it in and do stuff with it. And this gives you a lot of advantages because of its compact size. So the way I'm sitting, I'm basically just putting the guitar on my left knee, my right leg is just supporting it. If you play the opposite way, you might have to do a little bit of substitutional positioning, but you get the idea. So what we're really doing today is making the guitar feel good. Well, for me, I don't feel good playing the guitar if it's tipped way back into my body. I like my hands to be forward. Now, you're going to find out where you like to play the guitar, but the idea is you're trying to not put yourself in positions that don't feel good to you. So I also, when I'm starting out, sometimes I want to see the keyboard. So I'm going to lean, or fretboard, I'm going to lean the guitar back into me. And in this position, I've actually made it a little easier on my arm to move up and down, and I've got pretty good movement up and down my neck of the guitar. Pretty easy. So all we're going to be really worried about is the fact that we have to find the position to make the guitar feel good while we play something. And the while we play something is kind of where folks get kind of messed up. If you watch a lot of YouTube videos on learning the guitar, a lot of complicated stuff gets told to you. You can't remember it. It seems overwhelming. We don't need to do any of that today. The guitar is one of those great instruments that, for the sake of putting a capo on your guitar, capo is just a little bar that you can clip onto your fretboard that lets you move the same shapes you're going to learn to different positions to handle different ranges of notes. So we're not even going to worry about that today. Today, we're just going to worry about one key, and it may seem like an odd key. We're going to use the key of A. And we're not going to talk much about keys at all, really. We're just going to learn 3 chords that are commonly used in Western music. And in the key of A, that's going to be the A, the D, and the E chord. Now, there's lots of little details, and we might talk about some of those in a little bit. But all we need to know then is 3 chord shapes, and we can do a lot of stuff. The first chord shape we're going to learn is the A major chord. It just looks like this. I'm on these 3 strings. It's the second from the bottom, the third from the bottom, and the fourth from the bottom. I just press those in at the 2nd fret. That's my A chord. And you notice that sounds an awful lot like what we started with when playing the Jack and Diane song. So we're already on track for something good. And one of the first things you should notice is when you've got your hand forming that chord, nice and slow, nothing hard, you're finding a new position for the guitar to sit, because some things didn't feel good until you started trying to do something with the guitar. So feel free to move the guitar around a little bit, find that sweet spot for yourself. Okay, that's our first chord. The second chord we're going to do is an E chord. Now the E chord is a magical chord. This is the E major chord. It's in this shape, so I'm on the 2nd fret, 2nd fret, and then the 1st fret. What's so cool about it? Well, it's this. If I play all the strings, it sounds good. I'm going to move it up. It sounds good. I move it up and it sounds good. Gotta get to the right spot. Nice and chimey, just rings out. So this is a very powerful chord to learn, and it's even more powerful than we'll talk about here. But now we've got two chords. Now you've got to move between the chords. You notice I'm not using my index finger. There's reasons for this. But we've now got two chords, and again, you might find that that gets you to shift the position of the guitar a little bit. And then we're going to do a third chord, and the third chord is the D major chord. Now, moving through the chords pretty quick, you can find lots of information about how to form these chords, but that's it. That's all we're going to worry about for finding our good position to hold the guitar. Now remember, the idea is I like to push the guitar neck out from my body, so it's at about almost a 45 degree angle from my body. That's where I like it. Yours might be different. And when I'm playing these chords, I get a feel for how the guitar works for me. When I'm strumming, I am just literally taking the pick and I'm dragging it down the strings. Not pushing very hard, not moving very fast, nothing very challenging. Because remember, what we're working on is finding that position of the guitar. The other is just really finding out something to do to distract us while we find that sweet spot. And you'll notice when I play that sequence of chords, it sounds very much like we had at the beginning. Okay, kind of a nice little run. I'm letting all those strings ring out. There's ways to make that not go that way, but we're not worrying about that right now. So we're coming up pretty quick, though, on understanding that finding that sweet spot for the position of the guitar is important. What I like to tell everybody at this point is, it's not going to feel good today, right? It's going to feel still kind of awkward. But if you take a few minutes every day, pick up the guitar, and just practice the three chords, the A, the E, and the D, maybe a week from now, maybe 10 days, you'll see that the guitar starts to feel comfortable. It makes sense where you found to position it. Now, for myself, I'm kind of sitting on the edge of my couch. I have my left knee forward, I'm balanced on my left leg, my right leg is just sort of supporting the other side of the guitar. Nothing too fancy, but I have easy movement up and down the neck, and I have easy access to strum the strings. Now, one of the things that's kind of entertaining to start thinking about is there's notes that we think of as being very important in the A major scale. And the first one would, of course, be the A note. Okay, and so we know the A note is there because the top string is E, and we count the frets. E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. Now that can be a lot. Don't worry about that too much. We're just giving a little bit of a reference for the notes on the fretboard. So we've got an A. And if we just do this by kind of feel, the A note is here. On the string right below it is D. And then we have E. And those are the three chords that we're playing. And so we're getting a good feel for where we are in the guitar, the decisions we're making, and how we're putting stuff together. Now you might say, how was I doing the little fanciness of the Jack and Diane song? Well, we've all heard of bar chords. We all live in fear of bar chords. There's no reason. They're not that interesting, really. They're just a way of representing the notes. And the way we're going to play this A chord is in a little cheating way. We're going to play part of the A chord. We're going to come down and just pick the three strings that run back. And we can play some combination of those, maybe 4 strings. And that is a variation on the A. But you'll notice it's kind of a chimey version of it. Here's our old version. Okay, here's our new version. A little chimier, a little duller maybe. Okay. We can do the same thing by remembering the D chord sits here. Well, if we move forward 2 frets, that's an E chord. And we can play this in many different ways. But the basic idea is if we're here, we can go to an E chord, a D chord, back to an E chord, and then back to our A chord. And that's a starting way to do it. Now there's an even fancier way to play those two chords. You can just slide right down and play it here. Now we're not putting a lot of theory behind this, we're just looking at patterns. We've got an A, we keep this finger on the same string, and we just come down half a step. Then we come down a full step. Sorry. Okay, so we're not doing anything more than exactly the same idea. We're just playing little bits of the chords in different places in order to get a slightly different sound. And when we do something really fancy, all I'm really doing is adding my little finger. So we start seeing that there's ways of playing the same chords in different places on the guitar to get slightly different sounds. And so this is just one of those great examples. Now, this is a lot of information that we've covered, but we've really moved from trying to figure out how best to place the guitar in a position where you like it, coming up with some chords we're going to practice, the A, the E, and the D, and then realizing we can play these chords in different places and by playing different numbers of strings and different strings. So lots of interesting things going on. Now, this is very fast, but remember what we're working on is finding the position of the guitar. All the rest of it is just a little distraction, playing around 3 chords of interest, in order to find the sweet spot for the guitar. And then once you've found that sweet spot, then we can start focusing again on the little details of the other aspects. And so that A chord here, we move to here. To understand why that works is really not that hard, but it does take a little bit more futzing around. There's lots of folks talking about how to do this on the internet, so I'm not going to belabor it here. We just care about being able to hit an A chord, going to our E chord and our D chord, and then back to our A. If we practice just those movements, say for a week, you're going to feel the guitar become comfortable for you. It's going to make sense how to start holding the guitar, feeling comfortable with what you're doing, and start working with the different things you can do on the guitar, which our starting point is going to be chords and of course notes. Now that's the full A major scale. And it just starts right here. We just skip every other note. Should say every other fret. Start in the same place again. So it's perfectly symmetrical. Then we come back. These chords can have letter names or they can just be numbered. So this could be A, number 1, B, number 2, C sharp, number 3. This is going to be our D, number 4, an E note, number 5. And then we come up to a F sharp, which is going to be our number 6. Our number 7 sits here. That's going to be our B note, B sharp, and an A. So the A gets repeated. And that is what we call our major scale. So we've really covered an awful lot of information just by trying to figure out how to hold the guitar. And the idea is to give you something to think about while you're getting comfortable just figuring out how to hold the guitar. Now there's lots of right-handed activities you can do and many, many different ways of putting it all together. But if you're just a straight starter, you're starting with just a tuned or mostly tuned guitar, this is a great way to start getting up to speed and start feeling comfortable with your guitar in your lap.